Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This week, as a break from telling you the 100 best artists of all time, in recognition of Album Day, National Album Day, or International Album Day, whatever it is, which is on an 80s theme, I am going to tell you the best 10 albums of the 80s. Straight in at number 10. A lot of people won't regard this as one of Elvis Costello's better albums, but for me, Punch the Clock is, amongst big competition, it is his best album. It's got a soulful feel. He uses horns, the horn section, which used to be in Dexys Midnight Runners. Dexys Midnight Runners are themselves unlucky not to be in this top 10. It's got tracks such as the original version of Shipbuilding, which was later turned into a classic by Robert Wyatt, and Every Day I Write a Book, in which Costello shows his flair for fine couplets such as "Even in a perfect world where everyone was equal, I'd still hold the film rights and be working on the sequel." That's the power of good writing. Okay. The Smiths. This is the Smiths' debut, which is my favourite Smiths album, possibly because it's the first Smiths album I ever heard. Latterly, most people seem to pay more attention to their later albums. Not me. This is still their best. It's the one with this charming man on, and what difference does it make? It's the one which made such a stir. It caused controversy from the get-go. The Sunday papers slaughtered the Smiths. The News of the World slaughtered the Smiths for having a song about the Moors murderers. Too controversial a subject for the News of the World, but it was just a great album. And everybody says that every Smiths album and Morrissey album ever since has sounded the same. Maybe so, but this is the best one. Number 8, The Soul Mining. The isn't really a group, it's really one man, Matt Johnson. Matt Johnson released a solo album, didn't do as well as he deserved to, so he just called himself The when he did his second album. It's very innovative, very finely crafted post-punk. He's got some great instrumentalists in his band. He's used Johnny Marr on occasions, Johnny Marr from the Smiths. But on this record, one of the highlights is the piano flourish from Jools Holland on Uncertain Smile. Soul Mining, The. Eight-Legged Groove Machine, The Wonder Stuff. The Wonder Stuff came from the so-called Grebo scene in Stourbridge in the West Midlands. I don't really know what Grebo even meant. I don't think the Wonder Stuff were, but he got them being called Grebos, got them attention from the music press of the day, so they embraced the term, although they sounded nothing like the other so-called Grebo bands. The Wonder Stuff just had great tunes which were a forerunner of Britpop. Eight-Legged Groove Machine. The Specials' best work came out at the end of the 70s, but then the three vocalists from the Specials left and formed their own group. And their second album was this forgotten masterpiece, A Fun Boy Free, Waiting. A lot of people just unfairly associate Fun Boy Free with their duet with Bananarama, It Ain't What You Do, It's the Way That You Do It. That was on the first album. This second album is much more mature. It's really hard hitting, in fact. Great tunes, a bit of a ska feel, but it's not ska. It's just a bit of everything. It crosses genres, and it has some hard hitting songs about the government of the day. The more I see, the less I believe. Still as true today as it was then. And a song which gives shines a light on the mental state of Terry Hall, a day trip to France in which apparently, sadly, he was abused. A difficult subject to address in a song, but done brilliantly well. Right. It's genius time. Prince, Sign of the Times, a double album. He's so versatile, Prince. Unless you've seen him live or you've seen that YouTube clip of him doing While My Guitar Gently Weeps, you might not realise what a great guitarist he is. But he's a great singer. He's funky as hell, soul, funk. He even, on this album, he even sings Zoe's a Woman. He adopts the alter ego of Camille and does songs in that. It's got a flurry of hits on it. Sign of the Times itself, I Want to Be Your Girlfriend. Just a great, great album from a sadly missed genius. Another sadly missed genius is Phil Lynott of Thin Lizzy. 1981 Renegade came out, their penultimate Thin Lizzy album. Cruelly underrated. At the time, I think he was beginning to have his demons, his problems with drugs and drink. But Renegade was just a superb hard rock album. And part of what made it so good was that for the first time they brought in a synthesizer player, and the opening couplet of Renegade and Angel of Death, I almost forgot what it was called, it's just the best 1-2 intro to any album done by anybody ever, with the possible exception of the opening 3 tracks on Give 'Em Enough Throat by The Clash, but that came out in the 70s, so we can't include that album. Okay. At the time, this album was just simply called Peter Gabriel. Modern people can't handle the fact that an artist would call all his first 4 albums exactly the same, just Peter Gabriel. So they've given it names. They've called this album Melt because of the photographic effect on the cover. But Peter Gabriel, the ex-lead singer of Genesis, he was just so innovative. Synthesizers and samplers were a new thing back then, but he was all experimented with lots of different sounds. He had African sounds on Biko. He had great guest musicians. Paul Weller played rock guitar on one of the tracks. Kate Bush did backing vocals on the hit single Games Without Frontiers. This was a prelude to the duet they later did. This is his best album. This was innovative, and it was before he became too commercial. Peter Gabriel, although all the first 4 albums are pretty special, but I don't like Peter Gabriel's hit stuff from so onwards as much. The second best album of the 80s is the album which invented Nirvana. Doolittle by the Pixies, yes. The reason I didn't get into Nirvana when it first came out was that, to me, they just copied Pixies. Actually, get it right. It's Pixies, not the Pixies. It's just Pixies. It's easy to get wrong that. It's just a superb album. It's still going. But last but not least, the greatest artiste of all time, The River, Bruce Springsteen. He was just bursting at the seams with creativity in those days. It's a double album. He needed a double album to fit all the songs he had. He still left 25 songs unused, which, well, I would recommend the box set of the River, which came out a few years ago with all these extra tracks too. He's just my hero. One of the tracks on it, I Want to Marry You, I danced to on my wedding day. He's got a new album coming out soon. What a great man. What a great album. Who says the 80s were rubbish? There was some brilliant stuff in the 80s. See you next week. Bye.